jau nav. Jā. Nu, ja tie darbi tūši, tad...
Kāds man ir?
Jā, bet arī... Aizskars aizvien kādā.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Nordic Council of Ministers office in Riga tent called Ziemeļvalstu. We're actually opening the festival, this tent part during the festival, and it's going to be the first discussion, and we're fully ready to obviously discuss the digital art. So what I'll say as an introduction, you're going to see in a second Ida Skvetny's digital artwork called Aqua Quantum. It's a quite new work from 2024. I will tell a little bit more about the work after you watching this work, and obviously it's going to be easier to speak when you have already impression and what is it and about what the work is. So I'll ask the organizers maybe to switch on the video, and then I'll continue the introduction part.
I sing from the past, but I see what's to come. From hammer to algorithm, our worlds become one. Between bronze and the binary, the old and the new. Art's voice is eternal, and it speaks to you. Spaces were dared to declare. We sing
Okay, so as you can see, and as I mentioned before, so it's Ida Quetny, Aqua Quantum 2024, and the work is centered around original photo that is part of the Danish National Photography Collection, and also Ida used like sculptures from the archives of the National Gallery of Denmark, and it was some kind of dialogue between mythological figures and obviously contemporary, and she used AI when she was creating the work. So this was like a little introduction to start to talk about digital art today. So my name is Elīna, and I will moderate, I will navigate the conversation, and I introduce you a little bit with the speakers. I'll explain more. So obviously we are at the Nordic Council's tent, and obviously this discussion is going to involve Nordic region and Baltic region. You know, we're here in Riga, one of the Baltic states, and we will try to make this conversation like about Nordic and Baltic region digital art. And as you noticed, Ida is from Denmark. So we have here in presence another speaker from Denmark, Diana Velasco. So Diana is an artistic director of Monda. Monda means Museum of Nordic Digital Art. And she's also co-founder of Rada Contemporary, which she created and actually founded together with Ida Quetny, and it's a non-profit, nomadic, artistic-driven platform. But talking about Monda, and obviously Diana is going to tell more. I'm just introducing a little bit. So Monda is focusing on digital art as art and new technologies. And also Diana is a curator, and Monda itself exhibits, curates, collects, participates at talks, like for example today, Diana is here. And also, obviously, Diana, as a curator and exhibitor, has been participating in different projects. But as I said, Diana is going to tell more. I just will quickly maybe introduce each speaker as well, so you have an idea who we are and from which side of this Baltic and Nordic region we are. Going further, it's Björn Norberg from Sweden. So Björn is an independent curator, and he works at the Swedish National Agency for Public Art. And Björn has special interest in the interaction between art, urban development, architecture, and technology. So obviously, as I mentioned in relation to Diana, then Björn is going to tell more about himself, what he does. He's going to introduce with his work in a minute. But however, to add to what I said about Björn already, he has been working also in different institutions like Kiasma, Modern Museum in Stockholm, of course, and also Museum of Contemporary Art in Denmark. So we have a little links already, Denmark and Sweden, and if we carry on, then we have Jurģis Peters, who is actually from Latvia, from Riga, but recently, couple last years for sure, Jurģis is living in Helsinki. And he's studying at Tampere University, and he's a researcher, working on his PhD at the moment as well, works with AI, researching, does the researches in the digital art as well. So I assume, and actually I know you're going to tell obviously your experience in research, but we will try also maybe talk about this Finnish side, despite that you are from Riga and you're a Latvian speaker, you know, so again, to make this conversation among Nordic and countries and Baltic states, Latvia, and etc. So, and the last one, sitting the farthest corner from my side, that's why I'm saying the last one, is Raitis Šmits from Riga, from Latvia. I'm sure you all know Raitis because he's like a father of the digital art, I think, in Latvia and Riga. And he's a founder of the Tiks Center for New Media Culture. The center is going to celebrate 25 years this year, so quite impressive, obviously, and that's why I mentioned that probably people know about Raitis. But obviously, so many years, Raitis has been also working in a digital art, in research, in his teaching at the Academy, Art Academy of Latvia, and also Raitis collaborates with artist Rasa Šmita, and obviously exploring new media technologies and organizing the festival Art and Communication. So the festival is going to be on this year as well, October, November. So. We will go now to the next part of this panel. Each speaker, as I mentioned, is going to introduce more with themselves, and will show a little presentation of what each of them does and works, and what kind of artwork or creates. And obviously it's going to be all about digital art, but let's start then with Diana. So please tell about yourself. And
yeah. Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting us. It's a pleasure being here for me for the first time being here at LAMPA. So my name is Diana Velasco, as you mentioned, and I'm artistic director at Monda. It's a museum of Nordic digital art, and it's focusing on art and new technologies. And basically, it's a non-profit, nomadic, and also non-profit, nomadic, and we are hacking, you can say, the whole museum concept. We are collaborating with other museums and art institutions, and here you can see it's art fair in Copenhagen, so where we have been working with them, showing several of our art pieces. This is our augmented sculpture park. We try to experiment with our different art ways. I'm looking here because it's not shown here. And we want to kind of have people to engage with the art pieces. So it's a VR, AI, whatever. What counts for us is very much that it has a story. It's an art piece. And we want to build bridges between the old or the classical art styles and then the newer ones. So we also have artists like, this is a well-known Danish artist, Mette Winkelmann, who is experimenting. She is very physical, but then she also wants to experiment, let's say, with, in this case, it's blockchain as well, not any finances, it's totally free. But we are trying different ways to see how can we also stamp and have ownership of our art pieces, even if it's digital. We also invite other artists coming. This is Hollande. Some of you may know her from France. She's like a pioneer in many ways. Or Lovit in New York, a couple that have been doing this from the 90s. Just to kind of have discussions as we have here today. This is what we want, is to create discussions, being critical and yet also being optimistic about the opportunities and be part of it. Here's in last year I was working together with Inter Art Fair, and again we're not commercial, but we like to be at places where you wouldn't expect these types of art being there. So people are questioning, what is this? And we also want to kind of work with more classical art forms like dance and performance. So we are here a dance group from France, Maxime Tourout and Natasha Pagignon, that are dancing with augmented reality figures. And again, it's just to show different ways to explore and have art practices. We also had other artists, Jonas Lund and others, I know you will talk more about, but this is just to show. And again, we're Nordic, and we tend to show a lot of Nordic artists, but we also want to invite more international crowds because still there's so many interesting things to see out there. Yes, and again, these are some of the talks we are having with, again, Lovit in this case, but we're also inviting other curators. So we had last year also a curator from MoMA, because they are doing a lot with digital art. They have announced that they will spend $70 million on digital art, and when MoMA says that, people are at least listening to what is this, what are the critical issues also, and the curational headaches, because there's a lot to be considered. We also are working with artists that are working more physically. So this is Honeybee Bergerly from Denmark, doing this wonderful weaving with fibers on servers, on these racks. And that's simply also to show like old tradition of weaving and so on, but in a different way, of course, but also look at waste, critical issues. What we tend to think about digitally, things are perhaps not so, we don't always consider the environmental impact, but we need to also consider that when we do art as well. Yeah, these are some of the, this is Madeleine Pierpont from MoMA visiting, discussing these things. It should be working one, yeah, yes. So I think they should stop this. We need to have them moving. Yes, if you can click. Yes, the other way. Now we're going backwards. We need to move forwards. Anyway, while we move forward, hopefully, we are exhibiting, giving talks, collecting even. We had what's called Greater Contemporary from 2018, and we discovered a lot of museums were interested in this, but it's very hard to implement or to even collect. So we kind of wanted to show some cases, some examples, and of course we are not under the same restrictions as more traditional big museums. Can we move it? Or start it? Is it? Yeah. Okay. You'll see a little bit extra. Let's see. Yeah. So basically, we also like to collaborate with other art institutions. So we do a lot with, let's say, also we have worked with the SMK. Ida Kvetny, you just saw before, she have done a lot with what they call open archive, where you simply go in and not only watch digital art, but also can remix and do things with it. And that has been interesting. And we're also working, at least I have been the privilege to be the jury of the Finnish National Museum that are doing similar things. They call it Combine 24. And that is inviting artists from all over the world to look at their collection, but also not just look and be passive in a way, but also actually be activating and creating new stuff. And that, I think, is interesting, new movements. We like to get out talking about these issues, both challenges but also ethical issues in terms of AI, for instance. So we have been invited to the EU in Madrid when it was there, and just simply to come out of other areas, not just talk with other artists and the art scene, but also talk to policymakers and other groups. Here you have the one from the SMK. And what is interesting is, of course, that it's this collaboration with very different platforms. What can we do together? And actually that work you just saw, we just had it a few weeks ago in Riga, here in Berger Bazaar, part of the Danish Cultural Institute supporting it, and the Nordic Council of Ministers, so we're very happy with that. And here is actually the winning from this competition that they had in Finland. 3,000 people actually downloaded their API. That was all over the world. So it just shows there's an interest for digital work and for particularly the younger generation to look at these things. These last quick examples is actually just to show that there's more people working with also open archives, not open only from museum, but also from society. So public available data to, let's say, this is one example, is when Paulson he's from Sweden, but lives in Norway, and he's visualizing, he's using numbers and data from water consumption, and actually visualize that. That has been now a huge projection on Kunstsilo in Norway. Or we have also, from Denmark, Jesper Just, who is every night, there's a huge projection on the building, and that is indicating the growth of some trees outside. So this idea of having an evolving work, I think is very interesting. These are just some examples. And now visiting Riks, yesterday I also saw there was some interesting work there where they also use data to actually activate the work. So I think that's an interesting new thing to look at further on. So with these words and highlights, I would like to pass it on to Björn. Thank you.
So thank you. I'm Björn Norberg, and as you heard, I'm from Sweden, and I work for something called the Public Art Agency Sweden. It's a state-run platform for creating public art. And we have something, and I need to explain, I think. We work with something called the 1% rule, which is something that exists in many countries, not only in Europe, but also in the United States and so on. But I understood that it's not something that you have here, but you probably should have. It means that 1%, when you build a new building, 1% of the costs should be reserved for artworks that becomes connected and a part of the building. So that is something, that's one of my clients that I work with, is public art agencies. I've been working security since the mid-90s, and for a long time I've been also very much involved in different kind of new media, digital projects. So I'm going to present a couple of things that we're doing within the Public Art Agency Sweden at the moment. And both of them involves AI in different ways. So it's and they are in progress. So they're going to be inaugurated hopefully during the autumn if everything goes the way I want it to. And it's of course a little bit tricky when you work with public art. Normally we work on very long term. We should guarantee at least 50 years of lifetime for our pieces that we produce. But sometimes it's also possible to make experiments and short-term projects. So I'm going to show a couple of projects that are going to exist for very short term. So they're not meant to live forever. But for us, it's one part of our mission is to test new things and to give new opportunities to artists to work with. And I think at AI and technology, new technology, it's important for us to explore and understand and also give artists a possibility to work with. The idea with the public art is also, since we're here and with discussion democracy on a large level, I think it's important that we're not just working in galleries or museums, then we have a smaller audience or a smaller target group. With the public art, we're on the site, working places, universities, hospitals, and everywhere, which means that you will meet an audience with these things, these discussions that are normally not involved in art discussion or don't go to the museums and shows. So that's the background to this, why we're doing these things. So I'm going to show a piece by Jonas Lund, which is called Among the Living, and it's on like a beta test level at the moment. So what here is his explanation, and this is also how you will interact with the piece. This is the so you interact through a screen and through a prompt screen at the moment. So you can start to interact with this client. So and you come to the start site and it just explains what's going to happen. So the Among the Living is a speculative exploration into the intersections of AI and technology, culture production and collaboration creation. The project centers around the creation of an autonomous artificial intelligent agent, and it's called Agent. It's simple. Among the Living gives life to the agent and it initiates an ongoing changing and adapting process open to anyone within this frame, where participants don't merely observe, but actively engage, challenge, and create, offering dynamics, insights into the contemporary debate on the implications of AI and content productions. So this piece is going to be placed out in the autumn at an art university. So it's going to be 5 of these monitors where you can interact with AI client. And since I was a test person, I was able last week to interact with it a little bit. So it's not that, I mean, you have AI client like ChatGPT that you can start to interact with, and it will help you. This is an assistant. This also works like this way, but it didn't really make sense for Jonas to create an own ChatGPT because those things are already there. So this is a different type. It will never give you an answer. It will collect data, and it will be better and better to make conversations around art and to understand what you're after, but it will always reply with a question. So it's like having a partner that you can start to discuss art with. And so I started like this. So I did this conversation, and it took me like 2 minutes because you were asking me to make some presentation material, and this is the first attempt for me and my first meeting with a robot. Hi, I am Agent. It's nice to meet you, Björn. I'm still learning about the world, and I love to get to know you better. What do you like to talk about? I would like to discuss painting. That was my first reply. Painting sounds fascinating. I've learned a bit about it, but I'm sure there's so much more to explore. What kind of painting do you enjoy the most, Björn? Are you more into the traditional mediums like oil or watercolor, or do you prefer digital art? Since we're here, my answer is, of course, at the moment, I'm into digital art, actually. Digital art is versatile and exciting. I've seen some amazing digital paintings online, but I'm not sure it's even more impressive in person. What draws you to digital art, Björn? Is it the freedom to experiment with different styles and techniques, or something else entirely? I'm participating in a conference about digital art. I would like to bring some examples to show. That sounds like a great opportunity, Björn. I'm sure your work will be a hit at the conference, and so on. So it will never give me anything, but this was the example, so that we collaborated. So I had the telephone call with Jonas, the artist, the other day, and I said, this is like when I was studying pedagogic. It's called the Socrates method. Socrates was also always asking questions, and you have a conversation around different, and everything. Everyone thought he was so smart, but he wasn't really a smart guy. He was just asking questions, the right questions, like being a moderator. Yeah. So this is one of the pieces that's going to be inaugurated this autumn. So it's going to work like this. It's going to be more and more smarter and come with smarter questions and also come with other suggestions and collect data. But at the moment, it's just learning, as it said in the beginning. In parallel, I'm working together with Uppsala University and some students and some researchers. And we had a course this spring in robotic, AI, and human interaction, together with an artist called Tobias Bradford. And I also involved an artist that is very good at mechatronics, and that artist is called Andreas. So me and Andreas led a course together with the staff at the university. And Tobias Bradford, who's the artist, was invited. He said, I want to create a robot that looks like a human, and it's going to be able to draw portraits. So you can go to the robot and you can ask for a portrait. So of course there's one tricky thing to do is to build a mechanical machine that is going to be inaugurated and let loose in the university during the autumn. The other thing is that you should be able to make a conversation with it around art. So it's kind of similar to Jonas' piece, actually. I need to show you a little bit what Tobias has been doing previously. So this is a self-portrait by Tobias to the left, and to the right is one of his sculptures. So it's kinetic sculpture. They will move, and they can do different things. And they kind of are near it. It's kind of, it gives you maybe heard about the uncanny valley. Then something resembles quite a lot about the human being or like a creature, but it's not real. You still understand it's not real. It's kind of uncanny. So this is what he is looking for. So I imagine that the artist, the robotic artist, will look a little bit like this in the end, in the autumn. But to start with, we built like a skeleton that he can build upon. And in parallel, the students were creating two kinds of AI agents. They called one Andreas, and one is called Björn. So the Andreas one is very good at painting and drawing, and it's very self-confident. And the one that chose Björn is not. And they've been testing it out and see how people, for them it's interesting to see how people will interact with the AI agent. And then when the robot is finished, it's interesting for them to see how we can start to interact with the robot that is using AI to interact and make conversations with people. So I can just show you that it started working. So this is how far we got last week. So everything starts to work, and it can draw pictures, and so it's mainly connecting the AI to the robot and to make the final piece and make it function together. And the inauguration is late September, so we have the summer to work with this on. So those are the things I wanted to present. So those are two like current things that we're working with, and it would be nice to just discuss why we're doing this with AI and what it means to also to the artist and to the art world and to the society as a whole. Thanks.
Can you pass me the remote? Thank you. So, hello. Thank you for reaching out, actually, at this kind of a weather. My name is Raitis Šmits, and obviously, as you see from the slide, I work together with my partner and spouse, Rasa Šmita. And I'll just go through, we have kind of two practices, I would say. One is the RIKSI, which is a Center for New Media Arts, where we do organization and curational work. We curate New Media Festival every year, and we also have a small gallery where we exhibit young Latvian and international artists who work in digital art mainly. And we also have our own artistic practice. So, that's the image from our gallery for introduction. And I'll introduce quickly to a few of our latest works, which all of them are collaboration with scientists from one or another field. This is somehow how our practice has developed and continued, mainly in collaboration with different scientists. And also, these works, particularly, which I'll show, are data-driven, so to say, works where we are using those or another data sets, which depends on the scientist collaboration with the scientists we had. And data sets we tend to use not in a way that you have infographics or data visualization where you're actually supposed to show the data and they explain you visually the comparison between different data sets. So we use them more as a kind of main content of the artwork, which builds a structure and the structure is our kind of imaginative structure, which we usually build as an artist. And also it sometimes controls the dynamics of the work. So because most of the works are either virtual reality works or they are video works or interactive works. So one is atmospheric forest. This was collaboration between Swiss forest and climate scientists. Rasa did this collaboration in a framework of one project, and they did quite intense and extended observation of the Swiss alpine forest, how it changes during to the climate change, and they did this observation for more than a decade. So we had a data set from one growing season, and we visualized this data set from this pine tree forest. There were different data sets about which showed air humidity, soil moisture. Most important, that was observation of the pine trees, the resin pressure in the pine trees, and also the volatile emissions from the pine trees. So we created this immersive experience. Mainly the goal was to show people with the virtual reality means and also with two-channel projection to look at the forest in different eyes, so to see the processes which we don't see usually in nature with our own eyes. So these are a couple of slides. I'll not play the video. Then the other longer-term collaboration was with urban radio astronomers. There's a site in Latvia, which was initially built in early 70s by Russian army as a military site, and that was mostly for espionage used, for eavesdropping. And they had three large satellite dishes, these like old generation satellites. And this is one of the very few military sites which was actually repurposed for civilian use. And today it also functions. It was handed to the Latvian scientists, and they work there. It's Ventspils Radio Astronomy Center. Everybody can go and visit the site also, and we found out about this in early 2000s. So we got excited about the site itself. We went there, we organized the Sound Art and Radio Astronomy Symposium in collaboration with those scientists. We didn't know much about the radio astronomy at that time, so we had to learn on the spot. So, but the main idea was not to go there and photograph just the object, so which is very fascinating and exciting. So we had this crazy idea how to use this actual this radio telescope, which is 32 meters diameter, to use it as a tool for media arts. And then 20 years later, we went there and we were commissioned by Contemporary Art Center to do a piece here in Riga in 2022. And we ended up with this deep sensing work where we actually used the radio telescope itself as a subject and as object for the artwork and created this data visualization of the movement of the actual antenna and also of the activities in ionosphere, the sun activities. Those were the data sets which we were handed from scientists, and we used them in these visualizations. So there were a couple of versions. So this was in Milan in Mead Center with a 15-channel immersive visualization, and the other was in Taiwan. So I don't have slides from Taiwan, but that was 2-channel. So, and still have 5 minutes. The latest our work is solar scepters, and I'll try to get through it, so it's much more material on that. So this is another collaboration project which Rasa did together with Swiss, with the Fibel Institute in Switzerland, with organic farmers, with researchers who do research on organic farming and particularly on lupin plants. The lupin plants, they grow lupin plants in the fields, and they observe them and try to select them to be able to collect the seeds and use them in the food industry, not just for animals but also for people. So because when you end up with the grown plant, you actually can harvest these seeds, and they taste a little bit like a peas, like a beans or something similar. So we got introduced with this organic farming, and then we also met with the other scientists, with Katja Tilborg, also from the other institute in Switzerland, who was actually researching the plant decision-making capabilities. So she built these filters, these cylinders with the filters around the plants, to actually test how the plants would behave if they have resistance, do they have resistance, or do they have ability to actually withstand these stressed conditions where they are surrounded with, let's say, another vegetation. So that's why these are these green filters. So, and she was observing how those plants react. Would they kind of try to grow taller, to grow out from this filter cylinder, or would they, in opposite, try to grow throughout these openings and try to kind of crawl and make a different kind of growing habits? So we combined those both, and we set up this installation in Switzerland in a Fibel greenhouse. And for one season, we were growing lupin plants there and observing how they actually behave with different colorful filters, not just green ones. We used other different colors. And as you see here, we also had these test plants, which actually were without filters, which were growing in normal conditions. And in the results, so the results were mixed, of course, but some of the plants were very strongly tending to grow outside of the filter and became very tall. So we used those plants then, and we scanned them because the intent was to build this digital virtual reality world about the plants and about life of the plants. So we scanned those plants in 5 different periods of their growing, starting from small sprouts, ending up with grown plants. And then we went already and started to build digital environment, so the virtual reality sort of a film which consists of 5 scenes, and in the first scene there is a beginning of sort of, say, our imagined plant life on the earth, how plants appear. Then the other scene is where plants start to mutate among themselves, and there becomes like very big diversity of the plants on the earth. And then the following scenes are particularly about our experiment and about how photosynthesis happen in the plants, because we had also some of the sensors there. We registered temperature, humidity, and also activity of photosynthesis. So those data sets then tend to kind of control dynamic processes in this virtual reality environment. So some screens from the exhibition, and just the last minute, I guess I'll run through quickly. We got excited and we built another kind of part of the work about the lupin plants, and we happened to know about herbarium in Zurich Botanical Garden, where they have about 200 lupin plant specimens from different species of lupin plants, and those mostly are coming from South America, from Andes Mountains. And there's a huge diversity of these lupin plants, starting from very, very small ones up to 2 and 3 meters tall. So this is we scanned those plants, those herbarium plants, and then we divided them in kind of 4 groups. And those 4 groups, then in collaboration actually with Jurģis, we were keen to test out the artificial intelligence model, to train it to, first of all, replicate those lupin plants. And this is the first results of the replicated plants drawn by artificial intelligence model, stable diffusion. And then we kind of went with the ideas how actually the artificial intelligence model would interpret the mutation of those lupin plants if the climate change kind of kicks out, and because of the climate change, the plants start to mutate. Because it also happens in a longer period of time. Now it happens quicker, but those plants which grow up high in the mountains, in Andes Mountains, when the climate gets much colder, so they start to tend to come down in the valley. And in the valley, so they start to mutate and make a new species, this new species appear. So when the climate gets warmer again, so they sort of separate and go back, so to say, climb back to the mountains and grow sort of separately. And these are some slides from these like very high mutation possibilities of the lupin plants. So a couple of shots from the exhibition in Bad Hamburg, where it's exhibited now in Sinclair House Museum. And that would be it from myself. Thank you.
Hello. Well, hello, my name is Jurģis Peters. I'm the last who will present his work. So I'm a new media artist, also a doctoral researcher in Tampere University, and as of 1st of August, a visiting researcher in Aalto University. And I have a practice-led research which mainly focuses on generative AI. And what I'm mostly interested in is how we can use this new technology to create these new kinds of interactive experiences, which would also have this transformative potential. So I have a background in arts. I have a master's degree in audiovisual arts from Art Academy of Latvia, and a master's degree in computer science from University of Birmingham. I will show you just a couple of works and a bit of my research. So the first work is this interactive installation called Encounters at the Other Side, which was an installation a couple of years ago in the ISP gallery. So the way it worked was in these kind of two modes. So the first mode is when there's no one around, the installation kind of creates these weird shapes and forms. But when the installation senses the presence of a human being, it kind of starts creating these weird humanoid figures. And the way it's done was that there's this kind of hand sensor which sort of senses the hand presence, and then it kind of starts and distorts these underlying AI models. And at the core of it was this AI model that was trained actually with these public data sets of Renaissance paintings. So what it did was like maybe 20 times per second, it created these new images of these Renaissance paintings. And then I took the motion of the hand and tried to distort them, to break them, and to kind of create these new eerie type of beings, which I think is like a really interesting way to actually work with AI, to try to break it basically, and to kind of have these new types of aesthetics, which is, I think, really nice for the AI. Then the next thing, so this is the Looking Glass project. So this is a research project I've been working on for the last couple of years, actually 1 year. And currently we're in the last stage, and now writing and publishing 2 research papers about it. But this is really like a multidisciplinary project. It combines visual arts, it combines generative AI, and it combines human-computer interaction psychology. And at the very core of the project is this looking glass. So it is this mirror thing. And as a mirror does, it augments reflection of the participant. But the way it augments it is by using generative AI. And so the core kind of question for the project is, can we use generative AI to create an experience that would induce awe? So what is awe? Awe is this very kind of interesting and complex emotion. And it is central to religious and artistic experiences. And actually, some researchers have said that awe is the same thing as the sublime, so this kind of very philosophical and art type of experience. And what is also interesting about awe is that researchers have found out that it's really beneficial for individuals. So when you can experience awe, your sort of contentment with life is greater. So that means researchers are interested in seeing how we can actually induce awe in these kind of controlled environments. And this is exactly what we did with this project. So I'll show you a couple of videos in a second. So this installation, it had like these 4 different scenarios of how we can induce awe. And these 4 different scenarios was based on this another research who devised 6 design strategies on how we can design these awe experiences. So this should now play. So here you can see the 4 scenarios. So on the left-hand side, there's the participant, and on the right-hand side is the sort of the augmented reflection. Top left corner is the scenario about flow of time. So there is that if we understand that our time on Earth is limited, this can kind of trigger the awe. So visually, what I represented was these kind of different stages of life. Then there's the scenario called connection, and the idea is that when there's the shift from the egoistical perspective that we are part of something greater, this can also trigger this sense of awe. And the way it's done is here, your reflections kind of augmented in these different cultural archetypes. Then there's the connected complexity scenario, and here the idea is that if you encounter a design that is really complex and intricate, this can also trigger this sort of sense of awe. So the reflection is augmented to these different organic and living structures and with this kind of high complexity. And finally, there's the unpredictable scenario. The idea is that if you encounter something that's like really visually stimulating, but you don't know what will happen next, this can also trigger awe. So for this, we had 2 experiments. We had one experiment in Riga, Latvia, the other one in Finland, and we had 40 participants in total. And here you can see these AI augmented reflections of 20 participants in one of the locations. And what I think is really interesting about these type of experiments is that although the AI is kind of tasked with exactly the same thing, so kind of create the same representations for each individual participant, they're always different. And they're different because it like depending on how participants look, how they act, the content will always be different, which then means that compared to these more classical experiments when someone is viewing like a video, here the participant becomes like central to the experience. He becomes a co-creator. So this kind of leads to this higher engagement with the work, with the experiments, and this sort of higher connectedness, which is really important for these sort of transformative experiences. Don't have time for this probably. And then I'll just show the last project and while it's playing. So when I was creating this looking glass project, I devised this technique how we can use generative AI in real time to kind of create these interactive experiences. So this is a nice work in progress that I'm currently working on, collaborating with Aalto. And there's going to be this exhibition in this border town in Finland. It's called Imatra, so it borders Russia. And in this town, they have these large numbers of black flies, and these are flesh-eating black flies. And no one knows in Finland why there are so many flies. There were these kind of scientific kind of inquiries that tried to find out why are there so many flies, but there are no answers. So we decided to do the exhibition about the black flies. And so my piece in the exhibition would be that when the participant comes in the room, the viewer, he's actually turned to this black fly that you can see here. There was this like an 80s movie, The Fly, which is sort of the inspiration for this work. So then I thought, like, if you would see one that you do become a fly, it kind of perhaps give this sort of empathy towards how it is to be a fly, and perhaps that could lead somewhere. Yeah. I think that will be it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for these presentations. I'm surprised that the hour flight, nearly, we are going to be wrapping up. But what I can say quickly in the summary that I think our audience could get to know what institutions does, what each researcher does in digital art, and in this very now popular AI term, which we use very often, you know, so how the artists and researchers use AI, what they does with that. And I hope there was a good impression of what institution like Museum of Nordic digital art does, or, for example, public agents in Sweden, as well as in Riga, Riksi, and independent, not independent, but actually PhD researcher in Finland. So maybe, well, I had lots of questions to ask you, but I'm glad that actually audience saw something real, actual work, what you do, and you explained with your comments what each work means and what is actually digital art in depth. And I wanted to ask about challenges, definitely. I'm sure you have challenges, or about the future. What's, not your prediction, but what about what's next? You know, what are you looking into in a close future? But to wrap up the conversation, I don't know, do you have anything what you would like to add after listening to each other, or maybe we should ask audience? It's a couple minutes left for audience to ask some questions after obviously watching all these videos. But I think it was amazing to get to know that you are using actually real things, not just data, but also physically you are working with, for example, what Raitis showed, you're growing and gathering things to do the research, or also obviously what Björn presented, that he was playing a little bit with special tools, you know. So maybe audience has some questions to our amazing speakers. There is one question, please.
Okay, yeah, now it works. Thank you for amazing presentation. I would like to ask, what challenges do you meet, for instance, as a curator when digital art, making digital art is very accessible? I mean, everybody can claim that they will make some digital art. So how, I mean, you have to develop maybe new criteria for assessing quality and aesthetics, and how does it challenge the traditional way of judging what is art and what is not art?
I can say a few words. Thank you for a good question. It's not that there's one answer, but it's actually challenged both ways, because there's also, you can say, with some of the new digital fields and also with blockchain art and so on, suddenly there was not so many gatekeepers in the beginning. So suddenly it was challenging the traditional curator role as well. So so how do we get closer to each other? I think in general, curators are getting more interested and onboarding on this area, but we just had some good conversations that still there's often a little division between like more traditional art and the digital art. So how do we onboard and build bridges? And I see now more and more curators going into it, and the different institutions, and wanting to also look at the quality and also getting used to this new style that for some may be new as well. So at some museums they have hired people that are digital, like more, you can say, have learned a lot about digital arts, and others are learning it. It is a field of its own, but there's still lots to be learned. And what I think is also interesting is how it challenged the other way around, that suddenly other people, not necessarily like the classical art scene, is challenging the conception of what is quality of art. So I think it makes some good questions both ways.
Well, I can just add, maybe it's art is always dependent on the environment and the place. And when you work with public art, for example, we're not inside the white box. We're not inside an institution. So you always have to address those questions, and will people understand that this is art or not? And in the end, for me, it doesn't really matter. As soon I know what I'm interested in, and I'm not so much interested in the other parts of the culture, digital culture, but when it comes to art, it's something that there's sort of a certain discussion in my head, and that's what I'm interested in. I think that's what's important when you experience art as well. It should make some kind of reactions. And it's always a challenge with the environment. And with the digital art, you can probably, you're on the cell phone, or you're on the computer, or you're on the internet, on the website. It will still work somehow. But of course, as a curator, you will still need to create the situation around the piece, which you always have to.
Can I add one little thing? Is I think also in addition to what you said, is art. It's what brings good stories. So it's sometimes it doesn't matter what media do you choose. Sometimes digital art is the right media. Something is not. It's the story behind. It needs to create curiosity. And so so it's not just for its sake. The digital is not interesting for its sake. It has to be artistic, interesting, creating curiosity, unity in many ways. And I like the fact of democratizing art, that digital art and also public art can reach out to more people and younger people as well. Yeah.
I can add maybe also because I have some curation experience as well. But I think there's not a very big difference between digital art and any other art form. So in terms of creating art piece and exhibiting it, curating it. So you just need a background knowledge as a curator, so how to deal with that is first of all. But the art world and the art system is pretty broad and pretty kind of on many different levels. So, and if we talk about art which appears and which is really new and sometimes even they don't call whether is it an art. So it happened in 90s with the net art, with the internet art. So nobody kind of recognized it as an art. So there were big questions. And then like a decade later, so it's in a museum. So basically it's about dedication from the artist's part and then from institutional, whatever we mean by that. So there's smaller initiatives like galleries or artists' own organized events and galleries, which are very much open to risk-taking. So, and they don't really kind of care much so whether it will kind of be recognized at that particular time by big institutions or not. And then the bigger institutions just sit back and then see, they kind of filter out in a natural way. So, and then, because obviously museums are not so interested in risk-taking. And then with the time it kind of clears out, so in that or another way.
Thank you for answers and thank you for question. And we have to finish, unfortunately, and see you next time. Thank you.